2B pencil, rubber and a sharpener. And today what we're going to do is practice our tonal work by following the steps to complete a drawing of an eye. Okay, so on the worksheet you already have the shape of the eye drawn for you, so that helps out a little bit. So what we're going to do, we need to draw in all the rest of the bits and pieces so that we're able to then add tone. So what I'm going to start off with is the shape of the iris. Okay, so you can see that that is a lovely rounded shape that comes nearly to the bottom of the eye, but what we've got here is a little line where we've got the eyelid, but we're going to add in the iris first and then we're going to add the eyelid afterwards. So I'm starting round about where I can see the other drawing, the iris is started in the other drawing, and instead of just drawing a circle, I'm doing little marks, okay, so that I can make sure that the shape has been drawn correctly. It's going round until I've created something that I'm happy with. I think it could have been a little bit bigger here. And I'm making sure that I don't press too hard, just in case I need to rub it out and make corrections, like so. Go over that bit again. Got that drawn in. Now we're going to get the rest of the eyelid in, so we're going to extend that line here and come round, and when it gets to about here, that's when it starts to get thinner and then it joins up to the tear duct here. Now what I'm going to do is to sketch in this line up the top here. This is the sort of crease where the eyelid is. So it's a slanted line that starts about there and continues up until it hits the outer circle about here. Now again, if it's not quite right, once we've double checked bits, we can always adjust it. So now we've completed this, we're going to move on to the next drawing. So we need to add the rest of the crease of the eye, the eyelid, the iris, the pupil rather, and then the eyelid up here. So this section here, it's already partially been drawn, so I'm just going to continue, and then it's like a little flick that is in line with the shape here. So you notice how it's parallel to that line here. That's what we're going to have. Okay, so down from here and a little flick that goes like that. Now we're going to draw in the rest of the eyelid. It starts thin, thick, and then disappears into the rest of the shape of the eye. So we're going to do the same. Thin, thick, and then it disappears into the shape of the eye, like so. Now you notice that the iris isn't smack bang in the middle of the pupil isn't right in the middle of the iris. It's slightly pushed up to the top, so that's what we're going to do. Very lightly draw that in again, just creating that circle with little marks, and then stopping about here. So we're going to double check if we've got all the bits that we wanted to draw in here. Just this little bit here, draw that in and extend the eyelid into an eyelash, like so. Now we can move on to the final picture, where we can add a few more details and, more importantly, the tone. So I'm going to start off with the pupil. In the pupil you can see, and it comes onto the iris as well, there's a little blob funny shaped blob. That's a shine reflected in the eye. That's a light being reflected in the eye, so we need to include that, otherwise the eye is just going to look really flat. So I'm looking at the shape of it. I can see it comes a little bit into the pupil, out a bit here, and sort of goes like that. It looks a bit like a paint splodge. Drawing that in very lightly, and that's the bit I know that is a shine of the eye. Then I can see there's other areas that are a darker tone. I could actually do with doing the shine a little bit bigger, because I'm always checking to see how far each part is in relation to the other part. So I can see that white bit comes quite close to the edge of the eye, so that's what I'm doing. I'm making that adjustment. Okay. So we've got a darker part here, so I'm going to draw a little line there to show where that dark part is. And then we've got darker parts here and a little section there. So I'm just going to quickly sketch those in very lightly with the pencil, like so. So now I know where my darker areas are and where the lighter areas are. So now what I'm going to do is add the detail into the iris. So it's not just adding tone, we need to do little marks, little lines. So I'm going for tone 4 here because it's not as dark as the pupil, and notice how I'm using my pencil. I'm making these marks going outward from the edge of the eye. Little marks, they've got little gaps in them, that's absolutely fine because we want to get that texture all the way around. So we've got the shiny part that's left untouched. Now I'm going to focus on the rest of the eye. I'm going to use about a tone 3, and watch what I'm doing with the pencil. I'm going around like I'm drawing on rays of the sun. It's sort of little lines in a kind of zigzag mark, going all the way around until I get to the end. Any areas that I can see are a little bit darker, I'm going over them very lightly, little marks like so. Because what we want to do is create an illusion that the eye, it looks three-dimensional and it's curved. So you notice how the edge is darker, so that is what we're going to try and create. So instead of just pressing hard with the pencil, we're just overlapping those marks. Going around this edge, overlapping, making sure I get that texture in. Because if you look at your iris in the middle really closely, you'll see that it's not just flat colour. You'll notice that there are little tiny bits of texture in it, and that's what we're trying to create. When you're happy with it, you can move on to the pupil, which is pretty much a solid dark tone 5. So that's what I'm going to do. Here we can press hard with the pencil, we get a nice bit of contrast. I'm going around that shiny part. Completing it like so. Now we don't just want it to be dark in here, we want to create these other bits of shadow that you see around the pupil. So again, just lightly going around with little lines. To create that section, that texture in the eye. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to move on to the actual eyeball. So you can see in the edge here that's quite dark, so we're going to get that in first. So I'd say that's about a tone 5. So we're going over that, and then it lightens up to a tone 4. Notice how all my marks are going in the same direction. And in here we've got a bit of detail, so we're going to make that a little bit thicker, and then there's another line that comes in here and it blends out to there. So this is all in tone 4 that I'm doing that, and then it blends out even further into tone 3 and tone 2 and tone 1. So you see it's a gradual thing, blends out gradually. So now we're happy with that. We're going to move on to the other side of the eye. Again, it's quite dark in this crease on the outline of the eye here. So we're going to get that in. We're going to try and go in the same direction. Then we blend out to tone 4. So it's a little bit darker, but not as dark. Right in the edge here, here, a little bit of tone 4. Then we blend out to tone 3. Notice my marks are always going in the same direction. And then 2. And then 1 right at the edge here by the eye. Try and blend it smoothly so there's not just steps. We need to see a little bit of texture, but we want to see a smooth blend as well. Okay. Just going to make the edge of the eye a little bit darker. So now we're going to move up to the eyelid, the crease of the eye here. This bit is all tone 5. So I'm going to get that in there like that. And it leads up into the eyelashes, but before we do that, we're going to add a little bit of tone into this section here. So you can see that it's very light through the middle, but the edges are a little bit darker, so we're going to do the same. So I'm starting off with this edge here. That's my tone 5, and then I'm going to blend out to tone 4. And I'm just coming to the very edge, and then tone 3. So it's not coming very far over, it's just to the very edge of it, so we leave a light part in the middle. Doing that all the way round. I've noticed this is a little bit thinner, so I'm going to change that. That's why we always have a rubber, just in case. And this follows the shape of the eye here. So tone 5, 4, and blends out into tone 1. Yeah, so it should be gradual. Now we're going to add the eyelashes. Now if you want to be really accurate, you can kind of count how many are in each section. Take it, but just look really closely about where you place them. And important thing with eyelashes is just don't just draw lines that go like that, because that's not how they look. They look really cartoony. It's like we're not looking for that. We're looking for something realistic. So the marks you need to be making are sort of more sort of hesitant curves, like very delicate curves that you, instead of you pressing hard, you overlap. Okay, so instead of pressing hard like that, you overlap the marks so they look a bit darker. So you see I'm overlapping those marks. As you notice, I get to the middle of the eye, the eyelashes start going in the other direction. This is very important that you recognize this. So going this direction here, when you get to the middle, they start to curve in the other direction. So we're always double checking the picture, double checking our drawing. making sure that our eyelashes are going in the right direction and not the natural direction for them to go in. Okay. So now we're going to make this section here a little bit darker, and this section above the eyelashes here. So again, we're starting off with a darker tone, tone 5 right at the edge, and we're going to 4, and then 3, if you wanted a bit more text, you could even cross hatch it, like so. Yeah, getting all that detail in. Now we're going to get the underneath, the bottom eyelid, and we're going to include those eyelashes there as well. So first of all, we're going to fill in this section here with a tone 2, very lightly, and then we need a tone 3 for the section beneath it. As you can see, it's quite dark. So notice how I'm making small marks that I'm joining together, like so, and I'm doing it in the shape of the bottom of the eye. So I'm curving that round, and then it comes up like that as we get closer to the tear duct, like so. This is all in tone 3. So when I get here, I've noticed that it gets even lighter in this section. So I'm going to go to a tone 2 and just have it very light here. Now we've got that drawn in, we can add the eyelashes. So again, we're just working in tone 3, and we're just overlapping the marks, making sure we don't draw them too heavily, and you change direction with the eyelashes once you get to the middle. Come around the other side and they get a bit smaller here, like so.